Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something many of us feel but maybe don't talk about enough. Overthinking and loneliness. You know those times, right, when the world goes quiet and suddenly your own thoughts are just incredibly loud?
Exactly. Yeah, we've sifted through some really insightful sources for this deep dive. And our goal really is to unpack what they tell us about these inner struggles, how we understand them, and maybe find some ways to navigate towards, well, more inner peace.
Okay, so let's dive in. Something that really struck me across the sources was this focus on how overwhelming thoughts can become, specifically in quiet moments. One source put it perfectly. Thoughts get loudest when everything else is quiet,
Hmm.
and you start, replaying everything, conversations you had, maybe arguments, all those endless what ifs. Do the sources explain why silence makes the mind so active?
Oh, absolutely. It's a core theme. They don't just call it thinking. They identify it as rumination. It's like getting stuck on a negative thought loop.
Mhm.
What happens, apparently, is that the part of your brain that handles mind wandering, the default mode network, kind of kicks into high gear when there are fewer distractions. That's why you feel stuck in a loop, asking yourself, did I mess up? Or was I not enough? Maybe, why does this thing still hurt so much?
Right, that constant questioning.
Yeah, but here's a really crucial insight from the material. Your thoughts are not always facts.
Yeah.
This is huge. Having a mind that spins doesn't mean you're broken. Often it's your brain getting caught in patterns like maybe catastrophizing, where feelings feel like undeniable truths, even when they aren't.
And that connects so clearly to loneliness, doesn't it? The sources really highlight this, especially after tough times, like, say, a breakup. They talk about how nights felt unbearable. It's not just the overthinking itself, but this deep yearning. You might be checking your phone constantly, hoping for a message that never came.
Yeah.
You're looking for something outside yourself to quiet that internal noise.
Exactly that. That yearning is powerful. The sources explore it as what they call emotional loneliness. It's not about being physically alone necessarily, but missing that deep connection. Which leads to a tough question the material tackles. What if that external validation, that message you're waiting for, just never shows up?
Yeah, what then?
Well, this is where a major shift comes in, according to these sources. The idea that closure might never come from someone else.
Hmm.
It sounds hard, but they frame it as empowering. Because, they argue, closure can come from within too. It's about learning to give yourself the love you were hoping to get from someone else,
Yeah.
almost like redirecting that search inwards.
So turning the focus inward instead of constantly looking outward for validation.
Precisely. The sources suggest that seeking it externally can even trap you in a cycle, waiting for something you might never get. And they offer these really grounding affirmations like reminders. You're human, and it's okay to feel like a mess sometimes. But even in your mess, you're still worthy. You're still lovable. You're still enough. It's about self-acceptance even when things feel chaotic.
So, pulling this all together, the big takeaway from our sources seems to be about the power we have within ourselves, the power for internal healing, for self acceptance. Recognizing that real peace, that sense of closure, doesn't always have to come from outside circumstances or other people.
Right. It's about cultivating it inside. And that leads me to a final thought, something maybe for you listening to consider. If these sources are right, if we can find closure and validation within ourselves, well, what other things might you be unconsciously looking for from the outside world? Things like approval, maybe success, even happiness itself. And what kind of profound peace could you potentially find by trying to cultivate those qualities from within first?